Hi, I'm Rick.
Hi, I'm Wesley.
Wesley, you prepared something on build agents on Azure DevOps, right?
Yes, I definitely did. Something very interesting. It's like it's not used that often, but it's fantastic. So I got some few small PowerPoints here just to get an overview of what's already there. That should be something familiar. But let's get into it.
Sure.
So what we all know is the hosted agents.
Yeah.
Hosted agents is the default. It's what you get into the first time, but then you get like more stuff to do, more pipelines to run, more custom software to use. So then we get into our own self-hosted agents, which is basically just the same thing, only we have to maintain it.
Yeah.
The thing is, we do have to maintain it. You have to scale it. You have to constantly keep that agents there.
Yep. You have to pay for it.
And you have to pay for it. That's a big thing. So what they did is they used virtual machine skill sets, which can be used in the pool, which can auto-scale your agents based on what you use at the time. So if you like 10 jobs, then you can get 10 agents. But if you have one job, no need to use 10 agents. Just get one and maybe one extra, whatever you want. So you got the VMSS agent pool, which is basically just implementing the VMSS skill sets in Azure and using it in Azure DevOps as a pool to automatically scale its instances. So you have enough jobs, enough agents to run your jobs.
Yeah, and does that mean that you have to set up everything yourself, or is there guidance on it, or is there maybe even a tool that can help you?
There's like a big guide, which is basically follow it and it should work actually. And that's it. You have just to create the instance of VMSS and then you can configure it from Azure DevOps and you can already use it. So it's actually really simple. So let me show you for now.
Okay.
So let's go to Edge. I've got my own environment and let's go to first let's go to Portal because we need our VMSS instance. So I'm going to create here an instance which is my skill set.
And then a virtual machine skill set, for people who might not know, is actually a way in Azure where you can define I have 0 to 1,000 VMs that I would like to run. And please scale it for me according to the load that comes in, right?
Yeah.
And then you can set the lower and upper boundary yourself?
Yeah. The thing is, we're not going to configure it in Azure itself. We're going to make sure Azure DevOps does it. So Azure DevOps maintains the VMSS instance and scales it up and down based on how many is required. So what we're going to do in a moment is actually set the scaling to manual, because DevOps is going to do the automatically and it will conflict if you don't set it to manual. So it needs to be on that.
So that means that DevOps actually supports you in running VMSS as build agents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Cool. It's out of the box there. It's just click and go, actually.
Pretty powerful.
So for now, let me create an instance. Of course, we're at the beta talks, so let's do that. VMSS.
I think there's by now quite a few resources in Azure that have something with beta talks in the name.
There should be. I'm going to run a default Ubuntu right now. For Linux, there is nothing else at the moment which you can run. Of course, you can create other instances from VMSS, but it's not supported with Azure DevOps. So for now, but Ubuntu should be fine.
Okay.
Of course, it's cheaper, so let's do it. Default size, just a normal for one virtual CPU with 3.5 gigs. And for now, let's generate just an SSH public key because I'm not going to log into it, but for now it's fine. Yeah. What I'm going to do is go to disks, and there is one nice feature which you could use. It's still in preview. It's ephemeral, which is basically running your disk as a local instance. You're not going to sync it with the storage, which makes it very a bit more up to speed regarding the other one, just normal HDDs or SSD. For stateless services, in this case agents, which
are stateless,
is
right?
Stateless, should be stateless at least. So that's perfect. For now, I'm not going to use it because it's a bit more complex. Leave it for now. So we're going to go to networking. There is one thing you really should do here: no load balancer. You could use it if you want something like a public IP.
Yeah.
For now, we're not going to use it
Because DevOps needs to specifically target machines, right?
Yes.
And if you do a load balancer, then who knows where you'll end up?
Yes. So you can use it for the IP, but it's getting bypassed by Azure DevOps itself. So we're going to skip it for now.
Okay.
You could use a virtual network name. For now, it's fine, and I'd recommend it. For scaling, what I said, manual. Definitely manual. For now, I'm also going to set 1 as an initial instance, just because we want to see it scaling. So.
True.
That's basically it. So we go to review create. And we're going to create it. Well, that should take up to like 1 minute. I'm going to download the private key, so just to get it starting.
Yep.
And it gets like 1 minute, and it should be fine. So for now, I'm going to switch to Azure DevOps. And I'm going to switch to the project settings, which has the agent pools in there, and which has already a configured pre-instance, just so we don't have to wait later on. But for now, we're going to create a new one. So we're going to create an add pool. And in this case, we're going to do a virtual machine skill set. But we do need to know if it's already created. So let's wait a bit for it.
That would help probably. So
definitely.
While we are waiting, does this mean that DevOps automatically pulls in the containers that it uses for its own hosted build agents and pushes this into your VMSS?
What it does is it's using the extensions of VMSS. It gets the VMSS instance. It installs the agent extension, and then it just updates the machines which are already there.
Okay.
And in that case, it will, every time something new is spinning up, it first creates all the extensions and installs it and makes sure they are there. And then it goes ahead and it can configure, it can connect, it can push jobs, whatever.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, the build agents that Microsoft has as Microsoft hosted agents are also available on GitHub as Docker containers that you can pull down and run yourself. Yeah. But that's not what's being used for VMSS.
No, VMSS is basically just running VMs, which are a bit managed by Microsoft because you don't have to scale up and down yourself. Well, you can click on it, but Microsoft does it for you. So it's basically some sort of VM, and then you can go ahead and scale it up and down. But it's extension-based. Well, I'll get to it a bit later on when you want to manually install software.
Yeah, and then the cool thing, of course, is that because you're using virtual machine scale sets, you actually define what the image of the VM needs to look like up front. Yep. And then if you scale, you just get copies of the same type of machine.
There could be a thing which holds you a bit back for implementing it, but I think actually it's a great thing because you document everything that needs to be installed on the agents, which most of the time is just installed and not actually everyone knows what's on the machine. So in this case, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I think so.
For now, the resource is created. Let me open it. And I'm going to switch back to Azure DevOps. So we have our virtual machine skill set. We have a subscription over here, which I'm going to select the default one. And I'm going to select the one we just created, so the Better Talks VMSS. Yep. Give it a name. So let's be unique and give it Better Talks VMSS. Below are some options regarding scaling, tearing down, and the kind of stuff. What you can do is you can tear down virtual machines when they are done running a job. You could do that, but when the next job is coming in, it would be a bit of a shame that the VM is already gone and the job is waiting for the next one. So we're not going to check that one. For now, the maximum number is going to be 10. You can define whatever you want, depending on the load that's going to run on it. So
yeah, but it's a good thing that you can set a maximum amount of VMs, because if somebody decides to shoot 100 pull requests, you don't want 100 VMs to run.
Basically, you want to keep the VMs itself small and scale multiple instances next to each other. We don't want one big one to run everything, just small ones and multiple ones to scale up and down and keep the costs lower. Yeah. The number of agents to keep on standby is a thing to think about. It basically means at one time there should be at least the number of instances of agents available to pick something up. Okay. So what it does is when you scale up to 5, you have 5 jobs. There should be 5 agents, 6 VMs. Just one more to pick the next thing up.
That kind of, to me, that kind of feels like the the premium tier for Azure Functions, where you have one pre-warmed instance ready to run.
Yep.
And as soon as that picks up a job, you just provision another one for anything that might come after.
Basically, it's kind of the same. Yeah,
cool.
Definitely. The last setting is delay in minutes before the agents that are idle, which is basically not receiving a job for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. For now, I'm going to say 30 because we won't see it scaling up and down. But I do have the other instance which did. And we can create it. And basically, that's it. Now it's going to provision the extension to the VMSS. It's going to restart the instances, upgrade the image, and then you're good to go. Okay,
so looking at what this will now be able to do, your build pipeline will always need to incorporate the steps that you need to, for instance, run .NET Build or running unit tests. So everything you need to do on that agent, you specify in your build pipeline so that it can run on either instance. Yeah, or you can pre-install it on the agent depending on what you want. But both times you also already need to install it previously running the job. Yeah. So it should be there. Now, I could also imagine that if you have relatively short-lived tasks or jobs or build pipelines, that this might give you more overhead than it gives you performance. That's true for part, but that's why we have the pre-warmed up instances. Okay. So we can have a few waiting for you to create another job, just to pick it up instantly. Of course, there's time to start it, but it's actually not that high. In 3 minutes, there should be another VM just good to go. Though there is a part which is that DevOps doesn't pull constantly. It requires a time frame of like 5 minutes, and then it goes ahead and see if it needs more instances, or it just scales down up anywhere to go. But that's 5 minutes is something to keep in mind. But that's where the pre-warmed up instances are for. Okay, cool. So now it's running. It's provisioning the agents, and eventually you will see in the agent pool that the agents are going to connect here. We're not going to wait for that because that can take like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe even longer. Maybe if you have time, we can wait, but it might be better if we switch over to one that's already created. Of course. So I have the pre-instance pool, which basically has some jobs I already ran. Nothing too fancy, just waiting timers, but just to simulate the environment. It works, fine. It runs. Yeah, it runs. My pipelines don't crash, so. And it has one agent at the moment. Yep. And what I can do is I can start the jobs, which I'm going to do in a moment. It will see that it's going to need to scale up a bit because it has too many jobs. And it's going to provision new VMs. It's going to send it to VMSS. It will say like go to, for instance, go to whatever, and it's going to pick up the jobs. It's actually good that you specifically say jobs, because jobs are the unit of scale in a pipeline. Yeah. So a job can consist of one or more tasks. Yeah, true. All of those are a job, which are deployed into one agent. Yeah. But if you have multiple stages or multiple jobs on a stage, those can potentially be dispatched to different build agents. It's basically one job at one agent at a time. Yes. Of course, in the old or classic way that you have one VM which has multiple agents, of course the job's going to be on the same agent or the same VM. But in this case, it won't be because it's going to scale horizontally. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipelines, and I'm going to go to VMSS pool job simulation pipeline, which basically is the sleep timers of 10 minutes, and it has 10 jobs in this. So I'm going to run it, which will trigger the pool and which will provision new VMs. It could take, like what I said, 5 minutes, but in 5 minutes it should at least react. So I'm going to go back to the agent pools. It's this one. And then while we wait for this to actually happen, you talked about, I'm going to get back at what if you need specific software on the machine. Yep. How is that something that you can accommodate with VMSS? It's basically scripting. So for Linux, it's going to be shell. For Windows, could be also, but probably PowerShell. Yeah. You can just run PowerShell or shell from a warmed up instance, which it will do from the extensions. I will show it in a moment.
And then it will firstly install or run the script. So that's going to be something you want. For example, installing PowerShell core on a Linux machine. And then you're good to go.
Nice. That's actually pretty powerful again.
Definitely. So now it has all the jobs. It's going to run the first one, which is picked up by agent number 6 in this case. And what you can see, I don't think it's in diagnostics already, but what you see is the history of what I did today, where it increased from 2 to 4, it scaled down. So you can see here it's scaling up, it's scaling down. And you also have something like unhealthy machines. For example, when you have errors or things, you can configure it that it remains there for you to analyze. For now it's off.
Yeah.
So it's going to run. Eventually it will trigger some new agents. But for now we're going to go to the extensions.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to go back to the environment in Azure. What you have here in VMSS resource is extensions, which basically is the place to configure new stuff. And what I can do here is I can add something, which is anything you want. There's a lot in there. You have stuff for, let's see, custom script for Linux, for example, which we're going to use today. And we're going to do next. What I did prior is upload a shell script, which basically does what I said, installing PowerShell core.
Yeah.
So it downloads it, installs it on the machine, and you're good to go. So what I can do is I can browse. It needs to be somewhere. In this case, I uploaded it to a storage account.
Yeah.
So I have the extensions here. In this case, VMS extensions here. And then I have my install PowerShell core shell script here. So I can say this one is the one that needs to be installed. I select it, I create it. And when it's installed, it's good to go. Every time the new machine is going to spin up, it's going to install this first. And then it's going to run the job. The instances that are already there don't have the script at the moment. So what you need to do is you need to update the image of the machine, and then it's going to pick it up.
Yeah, of course. But I think that's a good thing, because then you can start preparing stuff that you need to have available in the future, and then push it out as soon as you're there.
You don't want it to be to crash a server or a job just because I want to install software. That's
Sorry
not
about your
something-
long-running job. I just killed it because I
Well-
wanted to install something.
Well, good that you run 5 hours of tests, but now you're gone and we're going to install some software. So
Let's try again.
So in this case, the custom script is installed. The instances can be provisioned, re-imaged, and it's good to go.
Nice.
So let's see in the meantime what it's going to do on this side. I'm going to check the page. But it could take some time, that's the point.
It's doing
There we
something.
see it. It's scaling out now from 1 to 4 instances. And it scales up bit by bit. It doesn't like go to in one bang, because then you can go from 1 to 100, or that's not really
and then
good
you
if
will have really jumpy instance counts. So I think it's a good thing that it tries, okay, let's see what this does, and then, okay, well, I need more, then
it
we can always...
tries and keeps going on the go. So +3, plus whatever.
Is there a way for you to have an impact on the amount of time it uses to pull if it still needs to do something, or is it always around 5 minutes?
Always around 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think I've never seen a pipeline run very much faster than 5 minutes. So
I have a lot of pipelines. Don't think it's good, but they are there. But that's where the pre-warmed up instances are for. Just 1, 2, 3, whatever you like.
Cool. So now we can also see them coming in under the agents, which are, probably.
Well, you're going to see the agents over here. Here you see 3 agents, 1 pre-warmed up instance, won't pick up anything. And you see the jobs which are running over here. 3, and it's going to scale up eventually.
Nice. This is actually pretty powerful, because I think Microsoft actually identified this as being an issue with DevOps, that you either have Microsoft hosted agents or you can do something locally. And this is actually using the power of the Azure cloud and the scalability of VMSS together with build pipelines or build agents that you can use under DevOps. So
it's actually the first time they implement Azure into Azure DevOps, which create a scalable instance and less money to be paid to Microsoft. So
there's now
that's something we like.
So there's now a reason for Azure DevOps to be called Azure DevOps, right?
Yeah, basically that is. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so very much for this awesome demo. I've learned something new today. That's always a good thing.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.